I'm Jesse. I'm going to string together two projects. One is a university, another is an urban housing project. But talking about a shift we've seen in the definition of the term home over the last 50 years, going from the conventional white picket fence to one that's more reductive and fluid for this current generation. And talking about how the different housing types that have evolved socially and spatially over the years, where socially the suburban model was very independent. It was a model of ownership. The urban model pushes the amenities out, and the micro unit model, which is the third one I'm looking at, is pushing all of the social spaces out. And in that evolution, you see socially, it starts out introverted and independent, and over time, as it gets smaller spatially, it also gets more extroverted and dependent on the local infrastructure and amenities located around it, because it's dependent on that system. And spatially, less becomes more for the new generation to be paradigm. So the first case study is looking specifically at challenging the conventional freshman dorm model. The freshman demographic is unique in that it's the first time they've had the kind of unprecedented ability to determine their own experience and craft their identity on a daily basis. So I'm interested in looking at figuring out what that means for their social development. So the freshman year, if you remember, it's just a period of rapid social expansion, starting with, day one, you meet your roommate, and there's the anxiety there. And as it grows out with your hallmates, your rest hall, your quad, your class, and the community, the building and the design and the role we play as designers can actually complement that social growth over time. And so when we look at the campus and the city, it already happens naturally by virtue of distributing different programs, sports, academic, housing, dining across the campus. And also the spaces in between are really critical to that experience. And I'm looking at deploying that across the quad scale and also the scale of the building. And so when we look at the residential complex, we start to look at the conventional model. It's very binary. It's all or nothing in terms of where you sleep and where you congregate, versus a more distributed model that offers a gradation variety of spaces and experiences every day that can cater to personal experience and preferences. And so I'm interested in what that spins out in the urban space, and from this ULI document, macro view and micro units. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically talking about bigger is not necessarily better with those social spaces. They're actually making an argument for distributing different scales of social spaces throughout, and offering up opportunities like Starbucks-like spaces throughout the building. And so University of Michigan, where I was at most recently, is already putting its money where its mouth is with regard to that model. So this is a $60 million renovation they did at South Quad, doing exactly that. So you see a variety of spaces offered there, dining, lounging, etc., cooking yourselves, but it's an interesting model. And from an exterior standpoint, what that might look at in a new construction model, it's actually, at least the way we propose it, it's something that is distinctly urban with regard to the role the exterior spaces play in the streetscape and the ground level programming. It's all part of the experience. It's not just in or out. And so we also start to take on a look at the demographic as they graduate. It's a unique demographic that's kinetically elite from a social, occupational, and physical standpoint. Few possessions, they're young, they're professional, they're maybe finally not living with roommates, and they probably have a good load of debt at this point. So the micro unit in the city is catering to that particular demographic. And if you break it down based on typology and construction type, the micro unit isn't too dissimilar from a hotel or a dorm room. In fact, the developer we were working with in the micro unit work, he actually came from that background. He worked at the Courtyard, and then he became the largest private developer for student housing. And so from a broader standpoint, the reason it's a trend, it's happened before. The micro unit is not a new thing, but the reason it's coming back now, cost obviously is a big one. It offers a new piece of real estate in the city. Location is obviously huge, as it is with any real estate. We've also seen the typical unit size shrinking, and increased densification also creates that demand. Is it affordable housing? Yes and no. So from a per square foot basis, it's not more affordable, but because it's less square feet, your monthly bill may be a little bit lower. The developers make it up on the back end. It's more expensive to build because of the infrastructure cost for each unit, but they make it up in that per square footage cost. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the micro unit is uniquely dependent on the local infrastructure and the amenities around it. So you start looking at how much the land costs, what's around it. We see second-tier cities, not a slight, but from a financial real estate standpoint, you've got to be able to afford the land. Obviously, the importance of amenities is a real thing, so you've got to have grocery stores, dining, restaurants, bars, workout nearby. The building and the unit amenities are a little more flexible. You may see communal laundry units, you may see in-unit laundry systems. That's a little more flexible based on the market you're in. So this is an example of a project. This is actually in London. But you're going to see spaces that look a lot like what you'd see on campus. And this is, again, just drawing a correlation between the same demographic we're looking at once they graduate. You're still trying to appeal to that audience and cater to that audience. And it's interesting there, the books there, like the books at IKEA, they're just cardboard cutouts because the image of the community is more important than the actual books. But as designers, we have a spatial toolkit, right, that we can deploy that can promote, engage, and play an active role in the social growth and social engagement. I'm going to look particularly at the socials there next, but that's sort of my favorite piece because it's spatially ambiguous in a way where no one can own it by themselves. It's a didactic form, right? It tells you a little bit about how you might engage one another in it. And it's a bridge builder. It's literally a way to get from point A to point B, but it's also a way to bring people together in space. Which is a good reminder we play an active role in that, so the designers can never wash their hands of it. And finally, just a shout out to Herman Hertzberger. You know, again, we do play an active role, and this is a reminder that you can't always balance the budget or decline or whatever. You have to try to make the right moves for the community. I think from the university to the urban standpoint, we can actually teach people how to be good stewards and good neighbors in this city by promoting the right kind of design spaces on campus.